Hello, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Boris Spassky live stream. And today we're going to try and take beginners through the playing of puzzles on Lichess. Now, this session is aimed at beginners, just to show you how puzzles work, and what they try and teach us, and why it's recommended that you try and make puzzle solving wherever you use it part of your routine in trying to learn to read the board, trying to assess tactics and opportunities, positions, so on and so forth. Sounds really easy, and in a lot of cases, in some cases it is, but a lot of the puzzles on Lichess are really quite difficult. So if you're a beginner, you may well not have done this before. Now, when I first stuck my toe into puzzles, where they're located under the Learn tab on the Lichess menu, so go over Learn and then to the puzzle section, and it will load a puzzle into the screen for you. And on the left of the screen it will have your current rating, whatever that happens to be, and as with the games that you play, your puzzle rating will go up and down depending on how good you are or not at solving puzzles. Now, what I've tended to find over the time that I've been messing around with these puzzles is you'll go on a bit of a run and you think, oh, this is good, I've got this sorted, and your puzzle rating will go up, and then all of a sudden you'll hit a bit of a brick wall and it will come straight back down again, as fast as it went up. That's quite hard to deal with, because you think, oh, I'm getting the hang of this, and all of a sudden you realise, once the puzzles start to get a little bit more difficult, that you aren't quite as good as you thought. But you have to keep going at it, and what it's trying to do is develop your ability to be able to calculate and assess positions, so that you try and make the right move. Right when I first started doing these puzzles, I thought I'd solved a puzzle, it come up wrong, and I couldn't understand why it had come up with the solution that it had. So I got in touch with Username, one of our players, top guys in the Backyard Professor Club, and I contacted him and said, why has this puzzle failed? Because if I do this, this and this is what happens, but the computer solution says this and this. How can that be? How can that be better? So he actually sat down, took the time to go through the puzzle and say, this is why the computer solution is the right one, or the one that the solution that the thing gives you is the right one. No matter what you think, all of the puzzles within Lichess have been all properly checked out, and you know for sure that the answer or the solution that it gives you is really good. It's the right one. Okay, so if you think you've got a solution and it tells you it's wrong, your solution is wrong, then you're wrong. Okay, and you just have to accept that. And what you need to try and do is understand why you got it wrong, and what the position was actually trying to tell you. So when you load up a puzzle, like I say, you get the puzzle up in the top left of the screen. You get the puzzle, how many times it's been played, the game it's related to, and the players that were actually playing in the game. The puzzle I'm looking at here on screen is between a 2200 player and a 2300 player, so these guys are pretty good. So these puzzles aren't always going to be easy. On the right hand side of the board, it shows you the moves that have been played up until this point is reached. Now, the one thing with puzzles is that these are positions that have been arrived at during a game, so you know that there is a problem to be solved. Now, it can be quite hard to know in an actual game that you're playing if such a position, an opportunity or situation exists. But I guess what you have to try and do is think that almost every move that you're making really is a puzzle. And what you're trying to do in all situations is trying to make the right moves and trying to find the best moves. So going back to the chess principles of opening and occupying the centre, developing your minor pieces and castling, those are your main objectives at the beginning of the game, and you're only looking to go out of those principles if the opportunity presents itself and you can capture pieces without wrecking your own position, because taking material is always going to be better than not doing anything at all or leaving material not being taken. So there are times when it is okay to go outside the principles. But anyway, if we try and assume that every single move is actually a puzzle, it can help us play a better game. Now, I'm absolutely nowhere near that level at the moment, so I play these puzzles, but there's a solution to be played. And at some point during your games, if you can try and get it into your head to think, what is the best move for me? Because at the bottom of the screen over here it says your turn, find the best move for black in this situation, or it will say find the best move for white, and it will give you a view the solution button underneath, and you got the player, which allows you to play backwards and forwards through the moves to this point. And underneath, at the bottom there, underneath the board, is a score sheet, and it shows you your last 15 puzzles. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to the point where I get 15 green scores at the bottom. I've not managed it yet, fallen short by a bit, but that's my ultimate aim, is to try and get 15 plus scores at the bottom. So on your puzzle rating score over on the left of the board here, there's a little graph which shows how your score goes up and down over a period of time. At the moment mine says 1360, so not particularly brilliant. Last week it was 1500, and I thought, oh, this is going okay. 15 puzzles later or so, my rating is down to 1300, which is quite depressing. But I don't know for sure, but I think as you improve, the puzzles potentially get harder. So to improve your rating, you're not always going to be solving easy puzzles. You're going to get harder puzzles to solve. So I'm going to jump straight in this puzzle here, and these puzzles, not as far as I know, don't repeat. I don't know whether that's true. I mean, I wouldn't remember if I've seen this one before. And it doesn't give you a rating for the puzzle. It tells you how hard or easy it is. So it's up to you as the player to try and work out what you're going to do. So I'm going to play a few puzzles, and I'm going to try and take you through my thought process as to how I'm going to try and work out what the solution for the puzzles is. So just looking at this, obviously always the first thing you're doing is you're looking for checks and captures. So obviously there's a capture here we can play. White doesn't appear to have any loose pieces at all, other than, well, even the knight's covered by the queen. So but it is a capture. But what would we get from that? So we're looking to try and get an advantage from this. So this will be where we can either come out a piece up or some positional advantage, which puts us ahead of white. So we're going to look at our candidate moves and see if we can work out the best move in this position. Now this could be an absolute train crash, because this is totally off the wall, and I don't know what the solutions to any of these are. So you may be sat there going, oh, this is easy, that's easy. That's fine, that's no problem. There is a comment section, and I will try and go backwards to it, and that's on Chrome, but that's on a different browser to the one I'm playing this on. So if you do put a comment on there, apologies if I don't see it straight away, but if anyone does comment, I'll try and comment later. Okay, so we're going to have a look at our candidate moves. Okay, we've got the knight. What can we do with the knight? Yes, we can capture there. We can move that square there, but that's a non-move because we'll just lose we'll just lose the knight anyway. If we move it to d5, what advantage is that going to give us? Okay, at the moment, can't really see an advantage. I don't see any advantage moving back to d7. So at the moment, a move with the knight seems out. h7 to h5, pressure the knight. A possible move, which could force the knight out of the way, but what do we gain? What do we gain from that? Where's their knight likely to go? It's likely just to try and capture here on our knight, which will open our pawn up in front of the king, which will leave us open to a check there from the queen, the white queen. So probably not a good idea at this moment in time. So it may be that the puzzle is to try and remove this knight, but then that only leaves us with an equal position, so that's basically a knight swap for a knight, so no real advantage there, and there isn't anything else that we can take after that. Okay, so it's not as if we're removing the defender that will allow us an advantage that I can see at this moment in time. So the bishop, okay, we could take h2, but we really wouldn't want to do that unless there's a real reason to do so. If the queen was on c7 and we had a backup, then possibly we could move, but then the knight would just jump in and take the bishop anyway, so no real advantage just to us there, so that probably isn't the solution here. We don't want to move the queen because otherwise the white queen will just take the bishop, so I can't see that moving. Oh, hang on, that's not. Well, that's what happens. Okay, if you press a piece and then press a square, it moves, and I didn't mean to do that. But what happens then is it comes up with a puzzle failed. Okay, and it gives you a cross and says basically you messed that up. That wasn't the move I intended to play, but that's what happens when you do actually press a piece and then press a square. It moves it because it thinks that's what you want to do. Well, let's see if we can find the right move anyway. So we can move e6 to e5 and see if we can move the queen away. If the queen takes, we've got the bishop to take, but there's no way that the queen, I think, would do that, so the likelihood is that the queen would just move away to a different square. Can't see any advantage again after that. White light squared bishop can't move. We can move b8 to b6 to threaten the queen. But as Ben Feingold says, where is there a book that says I must attack a piece? Because, which I think is quite a good thing to think about, really. So what you're trying to do is always trying to better your position. But obviously, this being a puzzle, we know there's a solution here, and we know there's an opportunity to create an advantage for us. Okay, could we potentially play b5? Not really, simply because this would just lose us a pawn there. So, for me, thinking if we move the queen is defending the knight, which is on the same diagonal as our light squared bishop. So the queen can't move here. The queen has got to move out of the way. So it looks as if e5 is the move which will then allow us to capture the knight. So that's what I'm going to go for. Oh, that's wrong. Okay. Okay, so why isn't that right? Okay, because the queen can't move there or there. Okay, right. If you can't work it out, then click the view solution. Oh, well, there it is. There's the answer. It was to take h2. Okay, well, if you press the forward button, it then shows the next move. which was the knight taking the bishop. Oh, well, there you go. That's why. That just goes to show why I'm a beginner. Okay, so if you go back, the knight opens, moving the bishop opens up the queen. Your bishop goes over here, king's got to take it, or move to there, or the knight will take it, and then you capture the queen. So there you go. That's why I'm not much good at puzzles. So that's the general idea. Well, we'll do another one, and that's a -16. So that's a big hit. That's one I really probably should have solved. So I'm a bit cross about that. But sometimes you're on form with these things, and sometimes you see it, and sometimes you don't. But you know, all you can do is carry on. So perhaps there's a little bit of nerves creeping in here as well. So that's my excuse for the day. I'm a bit nervous doing this because there's nowhere to hide. This is live. If I make a mistake, I can't go back and erase the video and do it again later. So if some of you have a laugh at this, well, enjoy yourself. Okay, but this is intended to try and help beginner players understand the way the puzzles work. So again, we're looking for the best move for black. Our rook's covering here. We've got a we haven't got a loose pawn because it's covered by this rook. We also want to try and think, well, why did the opponent play that? What are they trying to get us to do? What are they trying to get us to do? Well, maybe he's hoping we'd take that pawn with the c5 rook, but we're not going to do that, obviously. Okay, well, I think I've seen what the solution is here. I think it's a6 to e2, and what we've got then is a fork on the rooks. So that's on the diagonal, because we've got two rooks on the light square diagonal there. So that's the move I'm going to play. None of the other moves look possible, so that's the move I'm going to play. Okay, so we get a tick for it being the right move, and then we take the rook, and that's a success, and we get a +6 for that. So that ranks as a fairly easy puzzle to solve, but it doesn't matter because you actually get it right, and that's what you're trying to do. So, and over here on the left hand side, your puzzle rating goes up 6 points. Okay, so I did a couple of these, sort of having a little practice this morning, and I got 4 out of 5 right, so just to prove that I can actually do a few. Okay, so these puzzles are pretty random. This one's come from a 5-minute game with 2,000 rated players, but that's no indication of whether the puzzle is going to be hard or easy. All you've got to do is try and come up with the right solution. So obviously here we're either looking to take the queen, we'll do a queen swap, which just moves the c6 pawn to b5 and keeps pressure on this bishop. Is there anything else we can do? Okay, we take the bishop. If we take the bishop, we lose the knight to the queen. Where can we go after that? What can we do after that? I know there are good players going to be sat at home going, you know, oh, this is really easy. This is kids play. But you know, we're not all really good players. So you just have to sit and think about it. There's no time limit on this, so you can sit here for, doesn't matter how long you sit and try and work out what the solution is. The important thing is that you try and get it right. So what moves have we got? So we're looking at several moves. We've got the knight, which can move to b6. We can capture the bishop on c5, which will just result in a capture by the queen of the knight. There isn't, so if we move the queen out of the way, there isn't any real advantage to us there. Okay, because the queen, there's no loose pawns we'll get because the queen will be here covering these 2 pawns anyway. We won't be able to get to this pawn, so I don't think that's the answer, although looks like the intention is to try and go for a queen swap, but pieces out of the pieces set, we've got 6, 7 pawns to with equal pawns. We've got 1 minor piece each, and obviously a queen and rook, so the black king is in the centre of the board, so obviously not castled, so whether we'll have to assume that they've just not bothered to castle at this moment. So our king is tucked away on h1, and it's at the moment is quite safe. Okay, we're not going to go to any of these squares over here. Moving here or here is not an option. Moving here, moving to b3 doesn't seem to help very much. Yes, it leaves us able to take the queen here. Okay, so I think, and what you've got to try and do is avoid playing moves because you can't think of anything else to do, and it's very tempting just to go, oh, I can't solve this, let's just press a button and see what happens. In a game, I mean, if you're under time pressure in a short game, well, maybe you'll do that. But if you're playing a correspondence game or a game with longer time control, then do take the time to sit and think about a position, and don't just move a random piece and hope for the best. And oh well, I'll attack that and hope you don't notice it. It really works like that if you're playing anyone above beginner. Okay, we've got the opportunity for piece c4, which will c4 will really just lose us the knight. So take the bishop. That I think is the solution. So having looked through the moves, I think now looking at it again, if we play the queen, if we do a queen swap, the pawn takes the queen, which would leave us even, and then the knight takes the bishop, which leaves us a piece up. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, that proves to be the right move. Okay, so there we go. There's another solution. Again, it's a +8. It doesn't matter. We got there. We managed to work out what the right move was, and that's the whole purpose of playing these puzzles. Okay, I'm just going to have a swig of tea because I quite like a cup of tea, cup of Earl Grey. Can't beat a cup of Earl Grey in the afternoon. Can't beat a cup of Earl Grey any time of the day. But right, so on with the next puzzle. So again, we've got to find the best move for black. Okay, white's queen is threatening our bishop on a6. So it's looking like a potential move here. What I see here is knight to b4, which opens up the diagonal to the rook, which forces the queen to move and covers the bishop. So looking at this quickly, I don't see another move. That's the thing that jumps out to me straight away, but I'm just going to check. So I think we can win a rook from this position. Can't do anything over here. We're not going to move the queen up here. We're not going to move the rook. We're not going to move the bishop at the moment. I mean, even if we moved it here, that isn't going to be the answer because we're not going to be able to gain an advantage from there. So I think this is the right move. We'll soon see if I'm correct. I've got a tick for that. The queen moves out of the way and we take the opponent's rook. Okay, so that's another one that's 3 in a row. and we get 12 points for working that out. Okay, so now we've got a solution where we're finding the best move for white. So I mean, you know, if you're in a game, try and always think of find the best move for the colour you are. What is your best move? Really easy to say, not so easy always to do. And the idea is you'll try and, you know, always to gain an advantage, whether it's a positional advantage or a piece advantage. And we don't know whether these puzzles are aimed at taking a pawn, aimed at taking a piece, you know, a minor piece, creating a fork, skewering, whatever the answer is. We don't know until we actually try and play the puzzle. Right, so best move for white here. Okay, well obviously our queen, we need, if we're not going to take the rook, which we're not going to do because we'll lose the queen, capture the queen. So we've got a queen and a rook for a queen, so that might be the solution here. So this might be sacrifice a queen, black takes the queen, knight takes the queen here. So that looks like a solution to me. There is a capture here of a pawn, there's another capture here of a pawn, another one here, but neither of those are really workable. The bishop isn't going anywhere, we can't move this pawn. We're not going to play the rook up, we're not going to move this rook over, we're not going to take the bishop. There is a potential, no, I mean yes, you could push b5, but then you're just going to lose the pawn. You're not even going to lose the pawn, you're just going to lose your queen straight away. So that's not going to work. So to me this looks like the solution, and that would be c3 takes d3, the black queen takes our queen, and then we take with the knight. Okay, so we've got, and okay, so what it does, what you're seeing here, if this sequence goes on, so this is where you're calculating, and when good players are able to calculate this, so I mean I've only calculated a couple of moves, but this puzzle has gone on for another couple of moves beyond that. And this is the really difficult part about calculating stuff, and the really good players are able to calculate moves several ahead, so and see different situations. So I didn't realise this was going to happen. We're going to get a bishop out of this as well. We've lost a rook, but we are ahead of the game because we've snaffled a queen. We've got a bishop as well, and let's just go back through. If we just play back through the moves, okay, we've taken a rook. Oh, hang on, so I've gone one too far. Okay, so the rook comes down, we've taken the rook, we lose the queen, the knight takes the queen. Well, that's as far as I got. Now I missed the next bit, of course, which was the f6 bishop taking our a1 rook. Okay, so I thought the puzzle stopped there, but it goes on from there. The bishop comes down, and then our rook comes across. So that's the solution there. Now that's all. I thought it was a bit more difficult puzzle, but we only got 8 points for that. But we are 4 in a row now, so perhaps I should do this a bit more often. 4 in a row. I know I keep referring to Username, but that's because I sort of talk to him quite a lot, and you know the guy's I mean he's a red hot player, as are a number of players in the BYP club, Adoka and Ashers and Phoenix. You know, there's some cracking players, but I talk quite a lot with Username. A really helpful guy, as are the others, and his calculating skills are absolutely phenomenal. And he can go through games and go through calculations and this, that, and the other that I can't even begin to think about. But that's a skill he's learned over many years, and you know, if you get to that point, I've only been doing this a few months. but it's great to see how other players think about positions and can calculate several moves ahead. It's a skill, you know, I'm working on. Whether I ever get anywhere with it, we'll see. So this looks a bit more complicated, well, to me, situation. So again, queen under pressure. So what can we do here? Well, I don't think the queen take the rook is a good idea here. At all. So what here we do have the queen and the bishop on this diagonal. So if queen in take, if the rook comes in, the knight comes over, and we're down a queen and a rook for a pawn. If we then bring in, okay, what if we take with a rook? Rook take, that doesn't absolve, that doesn't get away from this move, that doesn't get away from this move here. Rook take, there isn't a way we can take that rook straight away there. I think this would probably be captured with the knight anyway, so this rook would stay on the board anyway. So if we take, even if the bishop comes in, then I don't see an advantage there either. Oh, careful, we don't press anything. Certainly not a square that bishop can move to anyway. Okay, what else can we do? What else can we do? Okay, what if we take? If we take the rook, we're going to lose the queen for a rook, so that's obviously not the solution. Sometimes you might sit and look at these and think, oh, blimey, I'm a bit thick not being able to see this. I feel a bit like that now. Why can't I see what the solution to this is? Pushing b4 doesn't help us. That just loses us the pawn anyway. Move the rook. Can we move the rook? I don't think moving the rook's a solution. I think this has got to be based around moving the queen. Is this okay? Remove the defender. How can we remove the defender or remove the defenders? Is there a way to remove the defenders? If we move here, then that's just a take. Doesn't really get us anything, does it? Bishop, take, up the board, lose the rook. So that's not a solution. If I'm going to do anything with the queen, I've got to do it. Okay, if we move the queen here, queen here, it's going to force possibly the rook to do something else, but then the knight could come in there and threaten the queen, and it would fork the rook as well. So that's not a move. We've got to prevent the knight being able to do that. as well. So you're also looking, while you're doing these puzzles, you're also trying to look at the follow-up. So if I do this, what's my opponent going to do? And I think to move the queen here would just leave a dead easy fork for this knight to jump in, forking the queen and the rook. So we're not going to do that. That's obviously not the solution. I know you're screaming at the. I know you're screaming at the screen. Do this, move this, move that. I know that. Let me just check on here, see if there's any comments. No, no comments yet, which is okay. Right, back here. Okay. Again, it doesn't matter how long you sit and think. I mean, it's maybe not the most interesting thing for someone watching at home, and I hope you're sat at home going, "Oh, this is the solution." And if you're sat there going, oh, "This is the solution," then hang on a second, and we'll see. When I've had when I think I've got the solution, then we'll see together if we're right or wrong. If we're wrong, we'll play the solution and see why we got it wrong. Take here doesn't give us, taking this pawn doesn't do anything for us. Moving here doesn't do anything. So we've got to get the queen off of this. We've got to get the queen off of this rank. And the only thing I can really see, is this pawn, but I can't see how we get an advantage out of it, because it's got there's two defenders. They've got three attackers. Well, we really need four. Queen. We don't want to throw away. Queen. Take. Rook. Lose the rook. Take with the rook. Lose the rook. Take either the pawn or the knight. That's taken. That plays check, which then means we can take that rook. But we're three pieces down for a rook and a pawn. But obviously that, I don't know. Rook, capture. Capture. Yeah, this is one of these moments you think, it should be. This is not obvious, so I really don't know what the solution is here at the moment. And I've got four in a row, so I don't really want to blow this if I can possibly help it. And I've got nowhere to play the bishop. I've got nowhere to play this rook. I've got nowhere to play this rook. It's no good playing. No good playing a3, and there's no good playing a4. I can't move this pawn. This bishop isn't going. If I play that, I'm just going to lose queen, and all I get is a rook for me queen. I don't really want to be doing that. And again, if you have to go over the move pattern several times, it doesn't matter, because the ultimate aim is to try and solve the puzzle. I just can't see what the solution is here. We're not going to take this pawn. We're not going to move the queen here. We've got to move it here. If we move it here, that doesn't really solve anything. It does protect this. We're still double protecting this bishop. if that knight ends up there, so even if we moved the queen here, then took the pawn with the bishop, which would force this capture or this capture, which would then mean we could take the knight, take the rook rather. Queen here. What does black do? If we move the queen here, what does black do after that? Well, if he plays f5, we can take it on front, and then we're on the bishop, on the knight. If he moves here, we just take with the pawn anyway. But then we don't go any further. We don't go any further than that, do we? So take, well, he has to move the knight out of the way. So where does the knight go? Well, if the knight comes in here, then it's lost to the pawn. If the knight goes here, it does fork, does potentially threaten this rook. Well, this is when your brain can start to get a bit fuddled with all the different solutions that you're trying to work out. So this is a good puzzle, really. There's plenty of these around, and I'll be honest, I don't know what the solution is at the moment to this puzzle. Move here, move here, move here, move here. If he plays that, take, which clears the rook up, and then we do have move back to check. It moves the queen out of the firing line of the rook. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I don't know if this is the right answer, but at least it looks as if it's got potential. We could end, well, I don't know. We might end up swapping rooks here. I don't know, let's see. Oh, that's wrong. After all that, there we go, we got it wrong. So, let's play the other move. We thought of queen take this pawn, but I can't see that being right. No, I'm right. It isn't right. Rook take isn't right. Oh, what have I missed here? What have I missed here? Oh, yeah. Oh, how about that? Take the queen. Oh, disaster. Oh dear, oh dear. Right, so let's go back. Oh, I don't believe that. After all that, how did I not see that? No. Okay. Well. Okay. Okay. Well, there you go. That's the. Unbelievable. Yeah. Okay. There you go. That's why I'm a beginner player. Okay, don't worry. I mean, you know, and that's only a -8, so I thought that was an easy puzzle. Okay, I'm going to do one more because you know this will probably get a bit boring for people watching. So, although I do hope you get something out of it, I do want to try and keep this as entertaining as possible. Although laying your soul open to the world like this Sometimes might not be the best idea. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Okay, right. Queen. Again, we're trying to find the best move for white here. Okay, so queen to f7. Check. We're covered with the bishop. Or do we play the bishop? So there might be several moves that you could play where it's sort of 2 or 3 moves. I've come across a number of puzzles where you can sort of end up with the right solution or the right ending. I know it's going to sound a bit thingy considering what I said earlier, but you're always going to find that the computer makes the right solution. Okay, let's just leave it at that. Doesn't matter what I think. The computer's always right, and I know Username said that, and he knows. So when he says it's so, then it's so. So sometimes you have to make up your choice, make your mind up which is the best piece to capture with, and you might have 2 or 3 pieces that will be able to capture the same piece, and the idea is to work out, you know, which is the best way to go. And several of the last puzzles I did back up here a couple of days ago. I just kept making the wrong choices. There were a number of puzzles where you had 2 or 3 options to take various pieces with, and I kept picking the wrong ones, which is really frustrating. Well, okay, this looks fairly straightforward. What I'm going to do is we're going to play check with the bishop and then snaffle the queen. Okay, there we go. Okay, well, we got a plus 14 for that, so I thought that was easier than the last puzzle, which was only an 8. So there, you know, you have to work out why this is the best move. So yeah, put the king in check, which obviously means that the queen is available for nicking, and I don't know if it'll play on from here. No, that's the end. That's the end of the puzzle. But we get a plus 14. We get a plus 14 for that, so I'm quite pleased about that one. And sometimes you'll find in your mind, you know, your mind is switched on to the puzzles, and sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, you know, and even the simplest puzzles. And I've sat here and gone, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? And you'll get times like that. And maybe, you know, when you get to that point, turn the thing off, go away for a couple of hours, or go away for a day, or even a couple of days, whatever. If your brain feels a bit frazzled, then, you know, give your brain a chance to recover, because chess is all about thinking and working out and stuff like that. So great for mental aptitude, and giving your grey matter a bit of a workout. So yeah, I mean, if you get a succession of puzzles wrong, like I did, I think I got about 10 wrong in a row, and that's the first time I managed to do that. Well, make it sound like an achievement, which it isn't. So what I did is I just left it alone for 24 hours, and then come back and did some more puzzles, and I did a few. I said to warm up for this little session. So I've done half a dozen puzzles here. So I hope that's given you a bit of an insight. We've got our ranking back up to 1400. So we've put on 14, 26, 34, 40, 34. What I say, 48 minus 8. So we've put on 40 points on our puzzle rating in this session. So I feel pretty good about that, actually. I thought it was going to be a bit of a disaster, but plus 40 out of this little session, so I'm really pleased with that. If you've got any comments to make, you know, please make constructive comments. If you've got something nice to say, always happy to have good comments. Like and subscribe to the channel. I keep forgetting to mention that as well, until I'm new to this. So like and subscribe, and I'll try and keep the content as interesting as I can. And remember, this is a beginner's channel. I'm a beginner player, and what I do is aimed at beginners and trying to help beginner players you know, see where I'm going with my little chess journey, and you know, again, a public thanks to the guys in the BYP chess club that are standing up and saying, yeah, I'll play it, and are there with all their help and advice, which they give freely. That's why the BYP fan club is really good, and I'm hoping to get a game online with the professor himself very shortly. So I've been in touch. I have been in touch with with the professor. So we are looking to get a game online, and I have got a game coming up next Monday, and I should be taking on one of my regular opponents, Strive. That's the plan. We've played nearly 30 games, and the so-and-so is 3 points up on me at the moment. He's had a bit of a good run, so he's been doing really well, or I've been doing really bad. Probably he's been doing really well because he's been playing some blind and chess. So fair play to you, mate. So we'll pick this up at a later day. I'll do some more of these puzzle videos, you know, and you'll see some good ones and bad ones, but that's just the way it is. The same thing will happen to you. So I hope this inspires you to go and have a go, get on and do some puzzling. And you need to do quite a lot of it to become any good. And it's recommended, you know, try and do 10 or 15 minutes a day if you can, just to keep your brain ticking over. You're trying to train your brain to see patterns and movements and start positions. That's the whole idea of the puzzles, is to try and get it in your mind, to understand positions on the board. And when you're a beginner player, it's a really difficult skill to master. Well, not even master, become any good at. So thanks for tuning in. I'm off to go and get some tea now, because it's tea time for me. So we'll catch up with you all again soon. Thanks very much for watching, if you've been watching, and if you've tuned in after this has finished broadcasting, well, I thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Ciao for now.